It is a Jund Mirror.
Exciting stuff.
Yes, exciting.
My favorite mirror.
We're bringing you Game 3, and exciting more because we see a Sire of Insanity has hit the table.
That's crazy.
So right now, both players, so we have a Sire Insanity versus a Ravager with Wolf. Cameron, with the Sire, also of note, has a Key Rune and a Kessig Wolf run currently in play.
Yeah, this is actually a pretty interesting state. Because of the Kessig Wolf run and the exact amount of mana Cameron has, he can make a 4/1 first striking blocker, which is enough to hold Brian off of doing basically anything. So Cameron can basically just sit here and draw cards until one of them hits something that breaks the stalemate.
Right, he's going to shock to play a fetch land. What that allows him to do is swing with the Key Rune, possibly, if he chooses to do so. Okay, it's 9 and 20 are life totals.
Yep.
So of note that, that Cameron has to be a little defensive here.
I think that shock was actually a little bold. Perhaps Cameron miscounted, didn't realize he could tap the Key Rune to get the extra power he needs to block.
That seems almost certainly.
There's really no reason I can think of to take 2 damage here, unless you make that misevaluation.
Yeah. So, and then we see. All right, now no one's going to get to keep cards in their hands.
Really crazy.
It's getting insane. We see Overgrown Tomb. This one comes into play tapped from Cameron. All right, so draw Brian Kennel. Both players kind of top decking here. Looking at the list, I kind of feel like the first player, there's a couple game changers in the matchup. We see like a Garruk Primal Hunter or an Olivia Voldaren are probably like, these to me seem like the top decks that both players are really hoping for.
I think Brian would prefer Bonfire the Damned.
Okay, Bonfire also, okay, to be fair, there's a third one. Bonfire would not be bad.
Yeah. Bonfire very strong for both players to draw at this stage of the game. Of course, that's true of Bonfire on pretty much every stage of the game after turn 2. So.
Right. So it is a little bit of a top deck war.
There's also Mizium Mortars, which functions very similarly. So yeah, you're right. You basically want the cards that can handle multiple threats. That's what we're looking for, right? And
even Thundermaw's okay here. Just some way to break through the stalemate.
That breaks it open. It makes the other player start reacting.
Yeah, the interesting thing is because Cameron's at 9, Brian's actually at the point where a Hunt Master is a pretty live draw for him. He can start to overwhelm Cameron. So Cameron really hoping to draw some sort of threat. He's been on quite a few lands here.
Cameron needs a few more spells. Note that like a single removal spell for Brian would be a lot more powerful than it would be for Cameron.
Yeah, we see Thragtusk coming from Cameron.
Thragtusk is what the doctor ordered for Cameron.
So now he's stabilized at 14 life. He also leaves up 2 lands and Rakdos Key Rune mana, passes the turn back.
Now, this is the only turn Brian will have where he can, actually force 1-for-1 trades with pretty much everything if he attacks.
Yeah, after this, you mean because after this we're going to see a Wolf Run Thragtusk?
We'll have a Wolf Run Thragtusk, and we'll also have Wolf Run Key Rune on defense if that's what Cameron opts for. That was keeping Brian at bay before. Now this turn, if he holds back that Wolf, that Key Rune's first strike isn't really relevant. If he passes turn, the initiative goes back to Cameron. It'll be based on Cameron's draw step, whether he attacks or not. Brian will just, lose the ability to make impactful decisions.
Right. So we see a Cavern from Brian. At this point, the creature type's not particularly relevant, as it's just being used for mana.
And with this kind of life total, Cameron might be able to afford to start swinging.
All right, and a huge one. It's Rakdos return. Just a burn spell to the face. Rakdos returns him for 6.
Lava Axe, go.
But one better than Lava Axe.
One better. A little more expensive, though.
Yeah, a little more expensive than Lava Axe.
Kessig Wolf Run for Brian. That would have been a really strong draw a couple turns ago.
Yeah, it still
not
seems
so great now,
it
but
still seems pretty strong. Cameron will be forward because Brian has the creature advantage right now.
It's very slight.
It's a very slight creature advantage. Yeah, I mean the Rakdos Key Rune's really good here.
Yeah, I kind of feel like.
Yeah,
I feel like Cameron might technically have the advantage on the creatures. The Rakdos Key Rune is shutting down the Wolf token.
But Thragtusk is 2 creatures.
And Thragtusk is 2 creatures. The second one, which is also better than the Wolf token.
Interesting to note, because of Siren Sanity, it's next to him. I think it's impossible for the decks to flip back the Hunt Master.
Until both sires die, the Ravager of the Fells will remain nightbound.
Right. But even if you're Cameron, I feel, you're somewhat feeling like you have to push in some damage here because on the untap you're going to start taking a lot of hits.
Yeah, Cameron obviously can start sending that Rakdos Key Rune in. He's at a high enough life total that he doesn't need to be too concerned about Alpha's back. Now he's down to just things like Bonfire and Mizium Mortars that actually affect the board in a really big way.
Yeah, the Key Rune can be pumped into a 5/1 first striker, so it could still be double blocked by Ravager and Sire and be forced to trade.
Sure. but I think if you're killing one of those creatures, that's probably fine for Cameron. And if you attack with something else like your sire, then you also wind up with the board state where you're getting in damage, and Brian has to do that block in order to trade.
Brian feels like the defensive game is no longer in his favor, and he's going to go ahead and swing Sire of Insanity and Ravager of the Fells.
I think that is a reasonable decision. The only problem being 11 that he's now dead, right?
Yeah, the
Cameron
only
has
problem
11
he's
damage in
dead.
power and 5 in Kessig Wolf Run, so he can swing for 16, and with only a 2/2 Wolf on defense, Brian would be dead.
Well,
unless he could
Cameron's
be killed
dead to this
also.
attack.
He's dead as well.
See, he had to block his. He had to block here because there was 8. Yeah, Brian was threatening 18 trampling damage. So Cameron had to put at least 5 toughness in front of this, which meant both creatures had to have to block.
Perfectly fair. Cameron makes that block correctly, winds up with a beast token against a wolf token, and now we see, Cameron was a little bit ahead technically.
And whoa, we see Bonfire of the Damned, a decent draw here.
Boom shakalaka.
And
let's tap all of our
Miracle,
lands. We don't need any other ones. Rakdos Keyrune is exactly the same
no
as
matter tapped or
Bonfiring.
not.
Yeah. Unless
you're
we're
tapping
feeling
3 to
Spike
deal
Jester
3
or something here.
All right, so he's going to Bonfire him for 4.
And then you can attack him for 6, put him to
yeah, I think,
to
okay,
4.
sure, why not? We'll use the Key Rune instead of tapping it. It's all the same. All right, so that swing of 6 plus the 4 from the Bonfire puts him down to 4 life.
Bonfire the Damned and nothing else, I think. Well, I guess maybe
Bonfire doesn't do it. The Key Rune won't die to it.
No, it would kill Cameron, though.
Huh? Oh, yes, that's true. Yeah.
The Key Rune would survive.
I was going to say maybe Thragtusk is worth it. Let's see, it's 9.
I don't think it's good enough.
I don't think it is either. He can make... Well, no, it should be fine. He can make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He can only make it an 8 power trample.
Oh, he's one shy.
So he's one, yeah. So Brian Kennel goes up to 9. Yeah, no, he's a fair number of mana short. Interestingly enough, the Thragtusk cannot attack because of Rakdos Key Rune. That first strike continuing to be very relevant.
Cameron probably just swings with the Beast token here, and then Wolf runs through whatever he can, leaving back Rakdos Key Rune to block.
Sure, that's a fine play for him to do. He still need, if he can grind, depends on what's in his hand. It may be better for him just to commit more resources to the board if he's drawn something. If he can get up +1 creature on Brian, then he will have a lethal swing again.
Yep.
So it really depends on his draw.
I think that the attack's fine either way, even if you don't Wolf Run.
Yeah, just attack to make them trade.
Yeah. If you draw a creature, then I think
I don't like the attack to make them trade because then you've lost a creature and your opponent still has the same number of creatures. Right now, if you can get +1 creature on your opponent, you've won. Now he's gonna opt just to trade all the creatures. That forces Brian to draw a creature next turn.
Yep.
Well, not next turn, sorry, for 2 turns, because Key Rune can't actually be lethal by itself.
Correct.
But turns Thragtusk into a beast. He swings his own beast. Pretty much, it's not actually demanding a trade right now. He can't Wolf Run it for a lethal amount.
Brian can now draw a Putrefy.
Yep. Brian goes to 6
to win.
And he draws his own bonfire. And well-deserved, he miracles back. Brian Kennel defeats, and he's right there, defeats Cameron McClintock 2-1.
Magic's a tough game, boys and girls.
Those miracle cards sure can change things.
It's tricky. I'm sure Cedric's super sad he missed that one. Man, 2 miracle bonfires over the course of 3 turns? Woo.
Yeah.
Woo!
So you see, so Kennel winning the Junmir, moving to 7-1, probably needing 1 more win next round to make it into the top 8.
Yeah. We are, just over the cut for 10 rounds at like 4. We had 430, I think.
Right. So what that would mean is that typically almost all the 8-1s will be drawing.
Yep. It's very likely, barring some early draws. Of course, we know that we probably had some awkward early draws.